I love watching stories about the resilience of the human spirit. And sometimes I get caught up in a loop of them, and I did yesterday. And some people would probably say, that's a real negative space to be in, but as our readings today talked about, it really depends on what you focus on and where your consciousness is. Bless you. So I watched a documentary about the mother of one of the young men who was responsible for the killings at Columbine High School. And that was the start of my journey yesterday. And then I went into a documentary about another school shooting, and about 17 young people between the ages of 11 and 17 were murdered there. And then there was a mass shooting in 1984, actually in a McDonald's in Isidro, California. And 20-some people lost their lives. 48, another 13 or 14 were injured. But they interviewed survivors, EMTs, first responders, people who were involved in that, there were a lot of children and infants that were involved in that incident in California in 1984. And some of the people who were in the documentary were 9 and 10 years old at the time, in this frantic, chaotic, murderous scenario that went on for 77 minutes, and the documentary was 77 minutes. And at the end, they said the length of this documentary is the amount of time that went on in that McDonald's. And that kind of took my breath away. So, I think about the things we go through in life and what some people have survived and what some people don't. And I wonder, how do we do this? How do we continue to do it? Because we get affected by it, even if we're not in the McDonald's, even though we're not in the high school where it happened, even though we're not running from the bullets, even though we're not responding to the call. If we are a first responder, we are all affected by what happens in the world. And what enables us to survive? I'm always impacted by how we survive, the fact that we do not just survive, but so many people thrive afterwards. And where does that come from? And somehow, as I'm watching all of this and I'm thinking about it, then that phrase, God doesn't give us more than we can handle. And I thought about that some, because I know I've been in a place where I thought, yeah, well, this thing that I'm in right now is something I can't handle, so I think that statement's wrong. I'm calling BS on that one. And you've all been there, right? Stuff comes up and you go, yeah, oh God, yeah, really? And certainly all of those people, all of those survivors of those 3 incidents probably felt that in the moment. And afterwards, because some of them talked about one woman, her 3-year-old was with her, and she shielded her 3-year-old's body with her own on the floor of that McDonald's. And a couple of years later, her child was napping next to her and fell off the bed, and she flashbacked to that time in the McDonald's and lost it. Lost it. She was screaming, she was yelling, she was holding her child close to her. Her husband came running in the room and just could not calm her down. And she was there, PTSD all over the place years later. She was feeling that again, because those memories come back to us and they are stored in our tissues somewhere. And I kept thinking, where'd that come from? Who said that? God doesn't give us more than we can handle. And so, of course, I Googled it. Because Google knows all. And so there's one theory that it comes from 1 Corinthians 10, and where Paul is talking to the Corinthians, and actually he's talking about temptation, and that's what he says. That God doesn't give us more of that than we can bear, more temptation than we can bear. But temptation is different than stuff that happens out in the world. It's a much different thing. And so there were some people, a minister or two, who were saying, no, it has nothing to do with 1 Corinthians 10. It doesn't have anything to do with God giving us, because God doesn't tempt us, doesn't just give us stuff. And depending on what your understanding of God is, there's the rub. If you do believe in a God that gives and takes and that puts us through things and that might give somebody one trial to see how they do with it, and that, everything that you need in order to deal with that trial is within you, then that's one way to live and one way to grapple with life. My understanding of God is different. I see God as principle and energy and the all there is, the all good. And so I don't believe there's an entity that's giving you something or giving me something different because I got different things that will handle that particular thing. I believe that life happens and it's neither good or bad, but because I also believe that we are infinitely powerful spiritual beings, that we always have everything we need to deal with everything in our path, because we are divine expressions. And so that means we have that power. And again, as the readings talked about, we just need to call in what we need for the situation at hand. We just need to call in what we need. It's here. We need to harness it. And I know I've been in the place where I thought, no, I don't think I have this, but it required me to dig deep. And it required me to discover something I didn't think I had before. And then I dig deep, and I sit with it for a while, and then I go, oh, all right, there is something there. And I could use this power, this energy, this new way to reframe something, as Deborah reframed for me. And then suddenly things change. And then you go, oh, this might be tough, but I could probably do this. And I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Our understanding of God is crucial to how we live. And I have to keep talking about it because life keeps happening. And we keep running into stuff, into brick walls. There's another hurdle. There's another conundrum. There's another conflict in our minds. There's another situation to deal with. Situations are things that people bring to your life. You know, when stuff happens, stuff hits the fan, you know, something in your relationship, whether it's a friendship or your partner or whatever it is, situations are those things you just wish hadn't happened and wish people would just mind their business and keep their stuff where their stuff should go and not bring it to you. That's what I call situations. I can't blame anybody else. I try not to blame anybody for anything. But I try not to even blame folks for stuff that they bring to me, or I think they bring to me. And stuff just happening between us. Maybe we're bumping heads, or maybe we have a difference of opinion. Or maybe somebody hurts my feelings, says something I don't like, does something I don't want them to do, or they don't do it the way I want them to do it. And that's causing me distress. So you get these situations, and then we get to decide, what am I going to do with that? Or do you just suffer in the situation and have a hard time and have what I call a spiritual tantrum because you don't want it to go on, and you're kind of metaphorically or actually stamping your feet and crying, or, you know, it's been a long time since I've laid on the floor and kicked my feet and my hands and stuff, like a 3-year-old in the grocery store that can't get candy when they want candy. And we just want things to be different. Sorry, sound people. See, they're wishing things were different right now, that I wouldn't be up here doing that. And so I do think we have everything we need. And it is a bitter pill sometimes to figure out, this is still mine to do. When the stuff hits the fan, I get to wipe the fan off. I get to shovel the stuff up and put it away. Or I get to see the stuff as fertilizer that can just grow something beautiful. I know, yeah. Gag me. Because that's how I feel sometimes, because I don't. It's just stuff that hits the fan, and I don't want to, and I'm having a tantrum, and I just want it to go away, and I'm sick and tired of stuff showing up in my life, because can I just get a freaking break this week? God. Can I just get a break? Yeah. Can't we just get a break? You know, life happens. Stuff happens. You know, sometimes ugly stuff happens, like in those 3 documentaries. Man, you know, my heart broke through every minute of watching that, and yet I was able to find some meaning in all of it. People's lives were changed. There's one man he was a teenager when that happened, and it made him join law enforcement. You know, somebody became a nurse because of it. One young man is now teaching high school and is talking about his experience and what he does with that experience and how he has established a connection that works for him with his best friend that died that day. You know, students who talked about their classmates who were gunned down in front of them. You know, one 14-year-old who stood up as bullets are flying around and went up and closed the door so that the gunman couldn't come in and kill more people. 14 years old, and lost his life. Gave his life. Gave his life for his classmates. Man, you know, when you think about things like that, and if, you know, I'm starting to believe that perhaps we decide before we come here in physical existence what it is we're going to do and the connections we're going to make and what our lives are going to be about. That kind of resonates with me now. And that 14-year-old, I think, probably said he would do that so that others could live and then do what they're called to do in this lifetime. And that he was going to be done at 14. That's how I find meaning in things. That I have to believe that there's this plan that's bigger than we are, that's bigger than everything that happens here. Because otherwise, it's just freaking chaos. Otherwise, it's just pain for no reason. Otherwise, it's just torture sometimes with the stuff we got to go through, or we watch others going through. And so I choose to believe that there's something else at work in the ether that Charles was talking about, that is mind with a capital M, an intelligence that all of us are a part of, and can bring our will to bear upon it simply by changing how we think about things. Simply by changing what we think about ourselves. Simply by trying to find meaning in everything, or find some kind of beauty, or simply, if we can't see the beauty, that we are willing to believe that there's a larger, beautiful plan there somewhere, somehow. And that takes faith. And that's the energy that Jesus was talking about. You have no evidence to believe in goodness, but you'll believe in goodness. And that you're willing to hold that belief, even if it looks like everything's going awry. Cattywampus. Off the deep end. Hill in a handbasket. I should Google who said that. I think it was my grandfather. He thought there was a lot of hell in the handbasket. So, what do you have faith in? What do you have faith in? Do you have any at all? And what's under that? What undergirds that faith? And if it shifts and morphs and moves depending on what's happening, or if it's happening in your love life, you got faith, but if it's happening in your finances, you don't. In that case, it's not faith. You're just kind of rolling with the stuff. And you're picking and choosing. So do we really, really have faith? And what is it? What is it? Can you, if somebody were to ask you, what do you truly believe in? What do you know for sure? I haven't said this in a long time. What do you know that you know that you know that you know? Down to your bone marrow. To infinity and beyond. What do you know for sure? And can you articulate that so that somebody can look at you and say, okay. Yeah. And is your life an outpicturing of that faith? Because if you really believe it, your life should be evidence of that. In fact, if they know you well, they should be able to hear your statement of faith and go, oh, that makes sense. I see that. I see that. Faith is no small thing. And if you truly have it, I do believe that anything can happen. The half of the physicists that believe that think that that's happening in the world. That there's physical evidence for that. That we can alter the quantum field by our faith, by the things we believe in unequivocally. Faith moves mountains. And so even though we may get caught up in the moment when we hear something or something becomes evident in our lives and we have that, oh crap moment, why can't I give it a break moment? You know, we have that for a minute because we're human and, you know, you have these emotions and stuff catches your breath. You have something that takes your breath away and you go, and somehow, within minutes or maybe hours, because I've had stuff that's taken me hours, where finally I got to, all right, I got something for this. All right, I can breathe. My chest is less tight. I'm breathing again. I'm walking around and now, because really they say prosperity is really divine ideas. Your mind starts to move and you start to say, oh, okay, this is what I need to do with my consciousness about this. I need to reframe this, or my next step is now coming up. So I'm not worried about this. I don't have to worry about this because I've got this. And the I that's got it is your divine self, is your expression of the divine, is the divine as you. Or, depending on your understanding of God, is God at work through you because you're allowing it. Because we always have free will, so God never impresses upon us what we are not willing to be open to. That's why they say the poor will always exist, because not everybody's going to get there. Not everybody's going to get there. It just doesn't mean poor as in money, poor in love, poor in good relationship, fulfilling work. So faith. I invite you to think about it. What do you believe in? Truly, truly, truly believe in. And then the next question is, are you living that out? Can people look at you and know by your life what you believe in? Are you in full integrity where your faith is concerned? What you say your beliefs are. Because once we are, man, the kingdom of heaven just overflows into our lives. And all the riches that you could possibly imagine and more will overflow into your life. Let's take this into meditation. What do you say you believe in? If somebody asked you for your statement of faith, what would it be? What is God to you? Who is God to you? Without judging yourself, just discerning, thinking about what's really going on with you. Is your life evidence of your belief? What you say you believe in? Be gentle with yourself. Is there a certain part of your life where your faith has lagged? Where you just can't make the leap? Or you haven't been willing to make the leap? What part of your life is the mountain that has not moved yet? Because you think it's too big, too steep. It's been there too long. It's too vast. Maybe you attempted to move that mountain before and it didn't shift. Maybe you're tired of climbing the mountain. Maybe you're just tired. And that's okay, because we all get tired at some point. We have only to remind ourselves that God, no matter what you believe that God is infinite. No matter how your God shows up, whether it's outside of you, or his love, or his nature, or his kindness, or his principle, or his energy. No matter how you think of God, is your God infinite and inexhaustible, all-powerful? And are you willing to open yourself fully, surrender fully to that God, and let it work on your life? Let it loose upon that mountain. What do you believe in? Above all other things. What is the belief that brings you peace no matter what else has happened in life? What is it that you can remind yourself of that makes all things right again? And are you willing to open fully to it? To give yourself completely so that goodness can overflow into your life. Every single area of your life. Your relationships, your work, your finances, family, your health, your dreams, everything. Your emotional world, your gifts and talents, are you willing to let the power of God into all that you are and all that you do? So in this moment we say yes and thank you for free will. Yes, and thank you for the ability to choose to direct our lives, for the ability to change our lives if we're not happy with its current beingness. We say yes and thank you for the light that we are. We say yes and thank you for the light of all sentient beings. We get to choose. Freely. And that is freedom. Free to be. So we take a deep breath now, relaxing. Free to choose our beliefs. Free to walk this life the way we choose to walk it. Free to open our arms wide. Unable to hold everything that can overflow into it. Simply by saying yes and thank you, we can flip the switch from lack and limitation to prosperity and joy and peace. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen.